Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. I like the light when I start my lives these days because the weather, not the weather, but the time has changed and we have sprung forward in the spring. There's still light outside when I start at 7 o'clock. And I actually love it. It's one of the things I like about living in the US versus living in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, uh, about this time, yeah, darkness, 6:30. It's time to start shutting it down. So, welcome. Happy Palm Sunday to those people who celebrate Palm Sunday. Happy Palm Sunday. I am Dr. Triffy. I'm a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm also a licensed professional counselor and a clinical hypnotherapist. I like to say that I teach people, and I've done this over 26 years now. I teach people how to think better so they can feel better and do better. I'm doing a special Transforming Trauma podcast today because I want to talk about a very important topic. I want to talk about a very important topic. I am talking about domestic violence. I'm talking about domestic violence this evening. And my question is centered around the idea that male perpetrators of domestic violence are not operating in their masculine energy when they hit, when they strike, when they hurt women. I also want to talk to those people who might be, by the time I'm done talking about what you need to be looking out for, to decide, to assess on your own, right? First, whether or not I'm in a relationship where I could be one of these people. And do you already know it, but you don't know what to do? What's your next step? I'll talk about some next steps. I also want to talk a little bit about how hypnotherapy could be a good and effective treatment to heal abusive patterns, both as a perpetrator and as a victim, for the perpetrator and for the victim. Why am I talking about this? So I'm from Dominica in the Caribbean, and that means I'm a part of the African diaspora. And we love our Nigerian gospel music. We do, okay? A few days ago, news broke that Osinachi, her last name is Nwachukwu, Osinachi died due to a domestic violence incident. Okay, before I keep moving forward and tell you a little bit more about Osinachi, I want to start off straight off telling you that there's help available if you're a victim, if you're a perpetrator as well. If you're the one doing the hitting and the hurting, there's help for you too. So if you need to call someone to speak with, to kind of clarify or to get help creating a plan to save your life, call 800-799-7233. 800-799-7233. Okay, so Osinachi, I'll tell you my story with Osinachi. I like Nigerian gospel music. And I was just searching one day. You know how YouTube will give you suggestions and suggestions and suggestions for who else to listen to based on a song. And a few years ago, I was listening to some music. It might have been Chandler Moore. And then there's a song that Chandler Moore does with, what's his name? He plays the trumpet. Anyway. And then it just kept adding more African artists. And I came upon a song by Osinachi that she does with Prosper. I don't remember his last name. And I couldn't stop listening to the song. I couldn't stop watching the video. Grown men who are used to keeping their emotions in, the power in that lady's voice was hitting them somewhere where grown men were bawling, bawling, bawling. And so it hit me somewhere when I read that she had died, number one, and number two, to find out she had died, in my view, senselessly. In my view, senselessly, because of a domestic violence incident between her and her husband. So I'm using her story, her life. Sometimes I think, as painful and as hard as those events are, in a way they amplify certain subjects, because we end up talking about it. And I hope somebody gets helped from this session. I hope if you are the perpetrator, you understand why it's time to stop. And if you're the one who is the receiver, the victim, I hope by the end of this podcast, you understand what to do next. Okay? Jacqueline, you're right on time. There's a glare on my face. Yes, there's a glare on my face. You know why? Because it is 7 o'clock here, but the sun is all the way up. You know how that is? Yeah. I am saddened by the news too. Domestic violence is real, even in the church. A few sessions ago, somebody was almost alluding to the fact that Christian people ought to know how to be in relationships. There's no such thing, though, if we don't have the skills and we don't want to learn the skills to be in relationships in a way that those relationships feel good and work well for both of us. Yeah. Just being a Christian is not going to cut it. Okay? So what do people mean when they say domestic violence? What is domestic violence? Domestic violence is violence committed by someone in a victim's domestic circle. It can include parents and kids now, but we usually talk about domestic violence when we're talking about partners, your romantic partner, or ex-partners, right? Of course, like I said, it could involve relatives. It could include people who are close to the victim. So is violence normal? Is violence normal in a relationship? No. N-O, no. Disagreements are normal. You got to expect to not agree 100% of the time with your mate, with your partner. That's going to happen. Okay? It's going to happen. You will disagree, and sometimes violently. Sometimes, when I say violently, I mean loud talking, strong emotion, whatever. Yeah? Where it becomes abnormal is where we start hurting each other. Where we start hurting each other, not just with our hands and objects, but also with our words and our actions, and sometimes our non-actions, what we don't do. Who is most at risk? Are you at risk for domestic violence? Another way that psychologists and mental health professionals talk about it is intimate partner violence. So who's at risk? Are you at risk and you don't know it? Okay. The overwhelming global burden for domestic violence rests on women. Overwhelmingly, women are the victims of domestic violence. That is not to say that men are not victims of domestic violence as well. In fact, I think within the past week or so too, a young man who turns out to have been African too, he is a famous whatever TikToker, and I think his girlfriend is an Instagram, again, that would influence. I'm not sure who she's influencing, but She's an OnlyFans star, and she, according to the Daily Mail, 25 years old, was arrested for stabbing her boyfriend, who's 27, to death, according to the Daily Mail, during a domestic dispute. And the two of them lived in a luxury Miami high-rise, okay? So I think now she's in a mental health unit after making suicidal threats, but the guy is dead. He is dead. So it's not just women who are victims, but overwhelmingly the victims across the world are women. Domestic violence also happens in same-sex relationships. It's not just heterosexual couples. Okay, but the most common perpetrators of violence against women are male intimate partners or ex-partners. Or ex-partners. What kind of person is most likely to be an abuser? What kind of person is most likely to be an abuser? According to the research, people with low self-esteem, and we're looking at men here because we're generalizing, but again, based on the research, the overwhelming majority of victims are women, and the overwhelming majority of perpetrators are men against women. So the most likely kind of man to abuse is a man with low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. When I hear low self-esteem, I hear a man very likely in his feelings. And a man in his feelings a lot, who's always feeling bad about himself, who's feeling anxious in the world, who's feeling angry often because there's whatever other emotion below, like helplessness or powerlessness or feeling out of control or insecure. That's a man who's operating in his feminine energy, more so than his masculine energy, because if you recall, masculine energy is about logic, thoughts, what's right and wrong, doing it regardless of how we feel about it. So a man who hits a woman, he's supposed to protect, provide for, cherish, which is what masculine energy does. If I hit this human being that I have been deemed by society, because I am the masculine energy person, to have the responsibility to protect and provide for and to cherish, I am not in my masculine energy. I am a beta male. So men who hit, men who call their women names, men who hurt their women, are not operating in their masculine, because again, what does masculine energy do? It protects, it cherishes, it provides for. Okay? Here's another category of people who are more likely to be abusers. Hi, Jillian. A blessed Palm Sunday to you too. Another category is low education or low income. It's associated, in my view, with less awareness and having less emotional intelligence skills, as in, hey, perhaps this person is not aware that what they're doing is just uncalled for and not necessary because nobody taught them. They don't know. They don't have access to as much information. But let me tell you, domestic violence happens across education and income levels. Across, from the top to the bottom. It might look different, depending on the form of abuse that's happening. So a more wealthy family Yeah, you might not have access to the credit cards. You might have to do certain things to be able to get an allowance. You might be on a fixed allowance. It might be psychological, where we threaten, we intimidate, we say, well, no affection for you. I'm not talking to you for weeks and weeks and weeks. I won't give you my time. I won't give you access to opportunities. I will control the money and therefore control you. Here's another category of people who are more likely to be abusers. Younger age. Younger age. Okay, so think about it. With age, they say, and experience, more than likely come wisdom. With age and experience come wisdom. So one would expect that as a couple learns how to be with each other, how to negotiate with each other over time, yes, they might have started with really poor communication skills, but over time, with age and experience, they might learn. They might learn. Juanita, hi Juanita, thank you. Juanita loves my hairstyle. Thank you so much. So, I spent my time today. I washed my hair and conditioned it. And my bestie Joyce actually called in the middle of my hair braiding. It took my comb and took my little time. See how long my hair is? For those of you who don't realize, the hair looks like this. Black people's hair. Oh, thank you for the Crown Act. You all know what the Crown Act is? I'll tell you a little bit later. So our hair does this thing which is called shrinkage. And you all know my hair, I buzz cut my hair all the way down sometimes, right? So this is how long my hair is right now. Yeah, it is growing and growing and growing. And so I took my time and did my little twists. Yeah. So, the Crown Act was recently passed in Congress, I believe. And can you believe there's people are still fussing at you for wearing your natural hair that God in his wisdom chose to give you? That's an argument I won't even have with people about how I wear my hair. I wear my hair how I want to wear my hair. And I will definitely be wearing my natural hair when I want to wear my natural hair, because the same God that people talk about, nature, whatever, evolution, this is how we evolved into this beautiful crown. And so I love my hair so much. See that little springy, springy, springy? Yes, yes, yes. So thank you, Juanita. Thank you, Juanita. So back to younger age, younger men. My guess is also that, remember, when men get to be about 45 to 55, in that little window, the testosterone in their body, it's still there, but their body begins to become more impacted at that time biologically by estrogen, which kind of, just mellows us out a little bit. It mellows us out and it softens us out a little bit. So one would assume that the older a man gets, is the less interested he is in this kind of control. You will do what I say. A man is more confident in himself, less insecure. He's made his money. He's established in his career, so he's not as anxious and likely to be feeling like he needs to control in that kind of hyper masculine, toxic way by using his fists or using his words in a harmful way. Another group of people, and again, we're talking about men because men overwhelmingly are the abusers in romantic relationships. Men with a history of aggressive behavior in the past or delinquent behavior as young men, as youth. If you meet a man with a history of arrests, with a history of behavior that led to, say, juvenile justice situations, that person, if that person has a history of fighting, yeah, hitting or hurting people, of course, that person is more likely to be somebody who is an abuser, an abusive person, because that's a way this person learned to express their emotions. Okay. Somebody with a history of heavy alcohol and or drug use. Here's something to know. So I often say that my favorite teacher on masculine and feminine energy is Dr. Pat Allen. And I promise, I encourage all of you, if you're interested in learning how to use these parts of ourselves better, especially in relationships, because that's where it really, really matters, I find. Then just look up Dr. Pat Allen and you will find so much information. She's got podcasts on iTunes, on Overcast, on YouTube. Just Google her name and you can start learning how to do better in your relationship, how to feel better in your relationship. If you're not yet in a relationship and you're looking to start dating, how to navigate that so that you're not just jump, jump, jump. Yeah, you're not just beat up by the process, because it can be challenging. And all of us know this. So Dr. Allen says that men who use drugs or use alcohol, not just use it, but become drunk. A man can drink. A man can drink and be okay. But once a man hits the spot where he's drunk, you lose your faculties, you lose your logic and your reasoning, your ability to make good decisions. And now you're just working out of your feelings. Man, I wanna sleep with her tonight. I'm out and I'm drunk. Oh, I'm just giving my money to whomever, because you're all in your feelings, men. You're all in your feelings. So men who are heavy alcohol and drug users, you're in your beta male state, bro. Okay? Beta male. And these are the men who totally in their feelings, and many of them act out of those feelings and cannot stop to think of consequences. So they go home, and if they're irritated, who feels it? Wife, woman, kids, the dog even. Men with depression and suicide attempts, who have a history of mental health problems, that suggests high emotionality and, again, a large amount of time spent really thinking a lot about your feelings and being in that feelings state. What do I say about feminine energy? Feminine energy is feelings based. So if you have a man who's calling himself the masculine man because of his biology, but he's constantly really in his feeling state and not thinking about consequences and doing things just because he feels like it, even though it's going to hurt whomever is in his charge to protect, that man is in his feminine energies, operating from his feminine energy. Men with a history of anger and hostility. Again, if you're so locked into your feelings, you are in your feminine energy. Remembering that all human beings, we are both. Yeah? Both. Carl Jung talks about feminine and masculine energy and describes it in the sense that women are masculine energy on the inside and feminine energy on the outside. And the reverse is for men, where they're hard on the outside, but feminine on the inside. The last category of people who you want to look out for are men. If this is you, somebody with terrible or poor or not enough or not good enough problem-solving skills. If this person cannot solve a problem, and if a problem shows up and their first response is to blow up about it, to become frustrated, to start yelling, again, that person is in their feeling state, feminine energy. Okay? Feminine energy is feelings based, and a man who is locked in his feelings and is not able to use his judgment, his logic, and his awareness of his responsibility to protect and cherish the woman in his life is in his beta male state. Weak man is what they call that in the Caribbean. Some people call that in the Caribbean. They say that's a weak man. That's a weak man. So a man who hits is a weak man in certain cultures. I think a lot of people have gotten it twisted, and the idea that I'm the so-called head of the unit means I have to dominate. Dominate is different than protect and and provide for. Dominate is a distortion of masculine energy. The charge towards masculine energy to cover the family is distorted if I am dominating, because if I'm dominating, I have now subsumed and taken over somebody else's will. Another human being, I have taken over their will. They're what they want and what they like and what they prefer. I have decided that it's what I want, what I prefer, and what I like, that's the only way. Problems, worries, and problems. Okay, so here's what the CDC is the Centers for Disease Control. The CDC says that there are 4 big types of intimate partner violence. You have physical violence. Physical violence is anything that includes you hitting, touching, grabbing, choking, pulling, pushing. Any way you have physical touch of a human being, that is the one that is done out of love. If it's not done out of love, and it's done in a way to control or to, in your mind, make them do what I want to do or make them agree with me somehow, that's domestic violence. A lot of men. So my first, what you call it? We do these things called practicums. My very first practicum, I was at a domestic violence shelter, and I was in Minnesota at the time because I left Dominica and went to Worthington Community College on the border of Minnesota and Iowa, and did a 2-year associate's degree. And I did psychology and did some volunteer work at a domestic violence shelter. And what you would hear from some of the men is, well, I didn't punch her. I didn't punch her like I was punching a man. I just slapped her. I just slapped her. I just grabbed her. I just told her, get out of the way. That's physical touch in a way that is not meant to show your love. That's physical touch in a way that is meant to control, dominate, in your mind, make somebody do what they don't want to do. And it's a weak individual. It's a weak individual that uses force. You've run out of options. If you've got to use your hands, you have run out of options. Okay, so that's kind of sad, and that's kind of weak. That's weak game. Here's category number 2. Before I go to category number 2, I think it is in those moments of the pushing, the pulling, the grabbing, the, again, touching with violence that a lot of people get killed and seriously hurt. I don't know that every abuser starts off wanting to kill their mate. Some do, because some people will threaten their spouse and say, I will kill you. I will kill you. Okay? And if you've ever heard that from anyone, Listen to the words that are coming out of the person's mouth. And we'll talk a little bit later about how you can extricate yourself from that situation. Because as terrible as it sounds, it's in the moments when women are trying to, you've seen the light and you're like, I'm done, I'm leaving. The likelihood of getting hurt actually increases when you have made the decision to leave. As painful as the relationship might have been, the likelihood of you getting hurt when you've made the decision to leave goes up. And so this is something you want to do and plan with care, Marlene, you say very weak, and their common saying their common saying after they've hit you is to say, you caused that. You made me do it. You made me so angry. You did this and it disrespected me. And therefore, the thing is, there is no reason. There is no N-O reason. There is N-O reason. No reason that is ever acceptable. None. There is no reason that is ever acceptable. You could come home and meet this other human being who happens to be your wife in bed with somebody else. That's a completely separate soul from you. And men have to get that. She's a separate soul, separate human being, has a right to cheat on you. She does. She has a right. You have a right to decide if you're going to stay with her or if you're going to stay in the house. You do not have a right to hit, hurt, whatever, stab, kill. Okay? So for the women who hear that often, that is so common. The first time you hear that leave somebody's mouth, you need a long, hard talk with a person who says, oh, I called you a name because I did XYZ because you made me do it. Nobody can make anybody do anything they don't want to do. Now, everybody has a right to do whatever they want to do. They also have a right to the consequences. Here's the second category of violence, sexual violence, assault. So you think husbands do not rape their wives, sexually assault their wives, as in force their body onto their wives? Huh? Your wife is a human being again, separate soul. She gets to say yes, she gets to say no, she gets to say, I've got a headache. She gets to say whatever she wants to say. And if that situation is not working for you, you have choices. But sexual violence is another way that perpetrators hurt their partners. Okay? In that category, you could include partners who use their words to coerce. And there, I can't fault a person who uses their mouth, say, to try to get a spouse to do something sexually that the spouse is not okay with. But when you bring in physical force, that's the line. That is the line. That's the line that must be drawn. If your spouse goes, if you want to do a certain thing and your spouse is not okay with it, but somehow you manage to get them to say yes, that's on the spouse. But the line is drawn at the physical force. Stalking is category number 3. What is stalking? Stalking is you've said to your partner, we're done. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And you try to move on, but you get out of your job and said ex-partner is outside. Or you move to another city and you cut off contact with the person, and they keep calling, very often making intimidating threats. That's what stalking is. That is not, he loves me so much, he doesn't want to listen to me. That is stalking. You've said and you really mean it, I don't want this. And the person keeps showing up, they keep showing up, and you start feeling anxiety in your body. That is not, they love me so much they cannot let me go. That is called stalking. And very often, stalking is a precursor, meaning it comes before physical violence because it's an attempt to control, it's an attempt to intimidate. Okay? And then we get into psychological aggression. Psychological aggression, name calling. You're stupid, you're fat, you're a B, whatever. You don't know enough about this. Who do you think you are? You're crazy. You think you're smart, but you're a dum-dum. You're a dum-dum. You're so stupid. Any intentional use of words to hurt your partner is psychological aggression because you're trying to psych the person out. You're trying to make her believe she's foolish. This person who, again, Mr. Masculine person, Mr. High Value Man, this person who, if you're in your masculine and acting from that, your responsibility is to protect, provide, cherish. That's, look, I keep watching over there. I keep telling you, when you have boys, boys are unique. The masculine brain is unique. The masculine brain is unique. So yeah. So what is the definition of psychological abuse? It's any act that causes psychological harm to an individual. Psychological violence can take the form of defamation. You know those people that when you argue with them, when you disagree with them, they call your mom, they call your auntie, they call their friends, they call the rest of the world and tell them, you're this, you're that. She did this to me. They make up stories, they take little bits of the truth and they tell people nasty things about you to make you look bad. To make you look bad. Okay? So very often you will have those people that they've told now coming to you to even add pressure. These people are called flying monkeys. They come to add pressure to you, not having the full story, but because some of these abusive people, they love garnering support, and they will tell stories, they will defame your character. Okay? They will defame your character if you give them a chance. And so, what you want to look out for, many toxic relationships start off with the person really, man, before you meet, they want to be exclusive. And this is not to say that if somebody meets you and they want to become exclusive very soon, that, like that's a problem. It's not a problem necessarily. It's not a problem necessarily, but part of the, the profile of many abusers is that love bombing in the beginning. And love bombing is when, look, everywhere you are, they want to be. The attention is so focused on you. You're like, oh my God, I struck gold. This person doesn't want to let me go. I am amazing. Yeah. That is saying those of us who might have been in relationships where the person was not very attentive to you. Say in your previous relationship, your person wasn't very attentive. This can be very seductive. Or if as a child, we have these unmet childhood needs, right? One of them comes from a feeling of, I didn't get enough attention. And another one is, I got too much attention. So for the person who did not get enough attention in their mind as a child. It feels so good to have somebody every day, they buy you flowers. You just met. Just met. They call you 20 times a day. You just met. You don't really know me yet like that. That could be a sign, okay? You want to look out for. Jealousy is another one. Jealousy is a normal reaction in a relationship. Jealousy is normal. I think if a person doesn't feel jealous if another masculine person comes and tries to get your attention, that person maybe doesn't have enough feeling for you. But it can go overboard. Too much of it, where they start maybe accusing you of being with that person who just said hi on Facebook to you or who just liked a picture. Huh? That's too much jealousy. Or coming up with stories about, oh, you like your family more than you like me. Why do you not spend as much time with me? You love your kids more. Yeah, that's going a little too far. So you want to start looking out if your person does any of these. A person who keeps a scorecard where you think you've let go of the argument, but they keep coming back to it. They keep coming back to it. You might have made up, several times, but they keep coming back to that same disagreement. And you thought you all moved on to something different. They keep a scorecard. Here's another thing, another sign to look out for. They blame you for their feelings. Somebody said earlier, they tell you, you caused me to be angry. Therefore, I hit you or I grabbed you. You cannot be responsible for another human being's emotions. And here's the thing, something could happen to 10 of us, but each one of us might have a different emotion about it. So, can you be responsible for all 10 people's emotions? No. You can never be responsible for somebody's emotions. Because for some people, the worst thing could happen and they're still chill about it. Okay? The next person might be very angry about it. So one thing women have to learn to do is to stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions. It is not you who caused your mate to be angry. Your mate had an anger response to the thing you did or didn't do, but you did not cause them to be angry. You want to understand this. You must understand this. Here's another sign to look out for. If this person is a stonewaller, what's a stonewaller? When you tell them, hey, you want to talk about something important, they're like, they shut down on you. I don't know. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. They know good and well they did something that you were saying, hey, this is my emotional response to that thing you did. What do you think about doing it in a different way next time? But they don't want to talk about it. And therefore, that leaves you with a feeling of, I'm just going to burst. There's no way I can process this thing. There's no way for us to come up with a new strategy for how to do it next time so that the relationship can get better. So you want to look out for some of those signs in a person to know, hey, that's not good. And we need to find a way to work through that. Okay, here's some questions for you. For you. Does your partner, like your new partner, or even your long-term partner, always want to be, I'll give the long-term partners a little break if that works for both of you, okay? But say a new partner, do they always want to be with you 24/7? And do they always want to keep tabs on you? Do they allow you or forbid you to be with whomever? like that word allow and forbid. Like, I don't want you. You will not talk to XYZ. I don't want you to spend too much time with your family and your friends. Red flag, red flag, red flag. The chances are they're trying to be controlling. Now, I like to say this. You can cook, and you've probably heard this, you can cook a frog in cold water. You want to know how? But if you put a frog in cold water, regular, say room temperature water, most frogs will be fine, right? But if you gradually increase the heat, gradually, 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 you just keep getting used to it. You just keep getting used to it as they up the ante on you. So in the beginning, the first time, they might have said, "Oh, I thought you were coming home I thought you left work at 5. It's 5:30. You're not here yet. What's going on?" You want to have a conversation about that, especially if you felt uncomfortable with that. That's called clock watching, where people partners start monitoring each other's, like almost to the minute, their whereabouts. That's about control. You're a complete human being. Your mate is a complete human being. There's a poet, Rumi, who says, let there be spaces in your togetherness. When you're with a person, you need your space too, because you can never be the same person. You need your space too. And once you feel uncomfortable with a thing, you have a job to do the first time. And if a person has that kind of tendency, trust me, it's going to show up again, But if you start dealing with it the first time you feel uncomfortable with it, you get a chance to talk. The person gets a chance to talk with you, to maybe explore, well, babe, why do you feel uncomfortable with me, being late? Or why are you anxious if I'm 15 minutes late or 40 minutes late, 2 hours late, whatever? How about we have a conversation instead of what many partners do, which is many abusive partners, which is to start with the allowing and the forbidding. Many women continue to stay in those situations thinking, well, they must really care about me. They don't want me to be hurt. Well, you have a phone. You could maybe make a new decision or a new agreement between the two of you that if you're going to be late, you send a text message, as opposed to the allowing and the forbidding. Allow and forbid is for children. Your mate is not a child. Your mate is not a child to allow or forbid. Anytime a person comes to you with that, that's an attempt to control you. Again, like I said, except if, after you maybe have a discussion, you find out, oh, well, maybe the person has a history of something horrible having happened and the anxiety goes up a little bit. But that's what you talk through that. You talk through that and you make a little plan, right? But to just start automatically going along with the allowing and the forbidding of another human being, another adult, to you who are a complete adult, you've set up for yourself a really unhealthy pattern. And very often that's connected to controlling behavior in mates. There are those that require your attention 24/7. 24/7, they want you available. That sounds sexy, doesn't it? Again, for those of us who grew up with a need for a lot of connection, that can seem very, oh, they must really love me a lot. Well, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it's about keeping tabs on you. And it's fine if you're not feeling uncomfortable with it. Hmm? But if you feel anxious about it or unhappy with it, you have a right and you have a responsibility to ask for time to talk about it, to create a different way. Because if not, you could be setting yourself up for a person who just wants to control your actions. Okay? I told you about love bombing. When you hear people talk about love bombing, there are people who want to move the relationship too fast, faster than you're comfortable. Again, the key is comfort. If anything is not comfortable, you have a job to do. You ask for time. You say, hey, I really want to talk with you about something that I've been feeling uncomfortable with. When is it a good time for us to sit and have a little chat? And when you start talking, you tell them, hey, I really like that give them a stroke. I really like that you want to know where I am. I really like that you XYZ. But when you do it, I feel a certain level of anxiety about it. Do you think you can do this instead? And I can try to remind you, or I can try to help us do it better. That's how you start negotiating changes in these kinds of patterns so that you don't get stuck in a situation where you've created for yourself a new daddy when all you were looking for was love and romance. You have a daddy already, okay? Except if you want to create a codependent relationship and you want to be a zero so your mate can be a hero and that's all you want. That's fine. That's your business. But I have a sense that most people are not comfortable with that situation where another human being gets to tell them what to do 24/7. If you feel like you're walking on eggshells around your mate, you all are in trouble. Because that means somehow you've gotten to a place where you're afraid to even share your feelings and your thoughts, especially those that are uncomfortable, because you don't want to set them off because they've told you that you are the one that set them off and you've come to believe it. That's a problem. If that's a problem in your relationship, again, you ask for time to have a conversation about it so you can negotiate something different that feels better for you. If you try to ask them for time and they say no, is this who you need to be with? If they keep saying no, I don't want to talk about it, this is how it's going to be, that just means that that's not your fit. That's not your fit. When you get to those hard places, okay, well, I hear you. I understand you don't want to talk about it anymore, but it's too painful for me to continue like this. I am willing to continue like this if we go sit with a therapist to help us navigate this because it hurts me too much. If your person doesn't want to go talk with a therapist, again, that might not be your person. Why? Because every relationship will have its challenges. And sometimes those challenges will be so big, you'll get stuck and you need a third party that's been trained to help couples navigate that. Okay? Your third party might be the pastor or the priest or somebody you all both really trust. Okay? I think the worst thing is when you've come to a point where even you feel like you're betraying yourself. Even you start feeling like, that is not who I am. I keep bending over backwards, twisting myself into a pretzel, and this person is still coming for more. You yourself are out of order. When you've let yourself get to that point, you need help. For me, therapy, man, therapy. Because a lot of those patterns in us women Because it's not just, when you have an abusive relationship, nothing is just one-sided. There's the other side. There's a part of you that's cooperating with that agreement. Yes, because except if the person has you tied in a basement, you are physically staying in the relationship. So that means you are cooperating and you are saying yes to them telling you you cannot talk to your mom every day, or you're coming home too late if you're 10 minutes late. So you have a job, a responsibility to yourself to address the issue. And if, again, that person does not want to address the issue, then you have to decide, how long am I really going to stay in that situation? Again, because they did not tie your hands. Okay, I know that many people can be very threatening, and I'll go over some tips for, well, if I do have to leave, how do I leave? Okay. You know, that situation with Osinachi is everywhere. If you go on YouTube, man, you'll see the lady's videos and that powerhouse of a voice. What I have found out is the husband was sort of like her manager and the one who was in charge of her money. So she was working and he was the money bags. I have problems with couples who work together. I have problems, and I've learned that from experience, let me tell you. It is fine if the two of you start a project together. You're more likely to be successful there, because even though you have that masculine energy dynamic, and women, we work from our masculine, so sometimes, we'll be butting heads in the workspace. It's going to be so amplified if you were already successful in your field and your spouse comes in and tries to join. Especially if you surrender your independence in your workspace. That is not a good feeling, because it can be very destabilizing for you, because you've now put yourself in a position where you are the worker, but somebody else is calling your shots. If you have a very loving mate, okay, maybe, but if you have a mate who wants to tell you what and how and when and why, you just put yourself in a whole lot of trouble. And the thing is, many women are already accomplished by the time they marry these days. A lot of us, if you're marrying a second time, you've already established your life, you have kids, you have a proper job or a business. And we talked about those men who are more vulnerable and who are more at risk to become abusers. These are men who might not have been doing as well and don't have something established themselves, where they're working their own job, and so they're distracted from you. If you become their project, and you become the project of a person who has low self-esteem, but who is also now essentially your boss, like, you've just put yourself in a world of hurt. You've just put yourself in a world of hurt. And I know that some women, what we do is we try to make our men feel better. So we might pull them into our business. Really think twice. Get legal advice before you do it. Get therapy before you do it. Figure out a really proper system before you do it. Because if you don't, you might lose both the business and the man. And for Osinachi, her life. Her life. Okay? I get it that sometimes it can seem easier, especially the numbers part of doing your business. If you're self-employed, it's easy. It feels great to have help. It feels great to have a mate who wants to help you. But if that help comes with strings like, now you get to tell me what to do in my workspace, it is different outside of our work lives. Because in your work life, you need your masculine self, you need your masculine energy to create. And so you will put yourself in a bad spot by bringing in your mate, because now that masculine energy the two of you have is just gonna clash. It's just gonna clash. It's just gonna clash. Except you all are so good again, right? And you have such great support that you can navigate that better. It is a very risky thing to do. Okay? There's some men who will tag on to a very successful wife just for the lifestyle. But then that can hit again that masculine place in them. And then next thing, they're overreacting and overcompensating. I'm the. It is reality. It is reality for many women. And I would say, try to avoid the problem if you can. It is not going to hurt your relationship. It might actually, not might, it will help it if you keep your work life separate. Keep your work life separate. Okay? At the very least, if you decide to create that situation, you must learn how to speak up, but still keep your respect for your mate. Because even if you're both in your masculine at work, people are human beings. He's not going to forget if you're being disrespectful. Learn how to communicate. That's what I mean when I say you're going to have to become really good at developing systems at work. Like, how do we speak to each other when we disagree? If we're fighting, do we take turns as to who's going to win? If that's the setup you want, where both of you working together, and he comes into your business like Osinachi did, you can't just do it on this feeling of love alone. Mary Benjamin has a saying, love alone, love alone. I love it, love alone. But love alone is never enough. Love alone is never enough. Love alone is never enough. My mom used to say, love pakaplembude. Okay, love doesn't fill the stomach. Love alone is not enough. You have to have real tight communication systems if you're going to try to navigate a system where you're bringing in a mate into your business, or you're giving a mate full control of your finances. Like, I'm working and only you will deal with the money. Like, think twice, people. Think twice. I know there are some people who are like, well, why should we have separate bank accounts? My thought, right? My thought is, hey, you need separate bank accounts. And if you want to know why, ask the many wives who have had their mates die and they find out all the shenanigans the mates were doing behind their back that they didn't know about. Because what you have to realize is the person you're seeing also has other connections elsewhere. And they might be making decisions with the finances, your finances, the money you're working hard for, that you might not know about. So you might want to think about how you do that. Like, joint, what's going to be joint, what's going to be separate. Okay, which of these accounts are going to be joint accounts to make sure we can take care of the home, to make sure we take care of our retirement funds, to make sure we take care of the kids, and what's going to be my money that I decide what I do with. That's just my preference. You can do what you want, but many women, and I've had to counsel some. I had a woman come in maybe like 4 years ago who said the husband died. Old man, like he's like in his 70s. He dies. She finds out he had a whole other family, a whole entire other family. And of course, because he was the one handling all the finances, she didn't know what was going where. She didn't know about other apartments and houses for other people. An entire other family. And these are real life events. And so you can't just be, well, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's great, but you have to think clearer. You got to think as well. Okay, Aliyah, look, everybody's loving my little twisties today. Thank you all. Thank you all. I put a lot of effort in. Well, it wasn't a lot of effort. I mean, I spent like maybe an hour. I washed it, conditioned it, put my little grease, and did my little twists. Okay. I love this about my hair. Look, see how long it is. Marianne Romaine, girl, it is so great to reconnect with you. How am I doing? I am doing well. It's nice to see me and hear my voice. It's nice to see you too, my sister. Hill, you love my hair. Thank you. Thank you. Marianne says, that's that was in the 50s. No one is taking control over her money. Good for you. And the thing is, you have to be kind of aware because some people are sneaky, like they can come in kind of around the way to try to get into that bag. Listen, there are different considerations. When you're starting off young, you're in your 20s, maybe you get married. It's a different scenario. It's a different scenario. You're building everything together. I think once you become an older woman, you hit your late 40s, 50s, you've had a first family, you're divorced, you're starting over, you better learn how to navigate these dating waters, or else you could be eaten by sharks. Okay? Prevention. How do you prevent domestic violence? I think, again, using that frog example where I say a frog, you can kill a frog in cold water by incrementally increasing the heat. The first time something feels uncomfortable for you, address it. Address it. Address it. Address it. The second time, you got to stay on it. You got to stay on it. When it gets to be too much for you, the couple, to handle, look for outside help. There are some things that are so connected to our childhood and past traumatic events or even mental health that you might not know about. All you know is just constant. When it's like that, you need help from somebody who's been trained. Okay? Speak up about it because silence is a killer. Silence, just taking it and not doing anything about it, that's a killer because often it does not get better. There's a saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. If any human being gives another human being control over them, absolute control, like you get to tell me what to do, you don't get to tell another human being what to do except if that human being is a child. If you're a couple, you negotiate, you talk through, you discuss, and you all might come to a final decision that's a compromise. But that compromise should feel, kind of like a win-win. Or sometimes you might have a give and take. Okay, all right, I'm taking one for the team here. But it can't be that one person is always getting the win. That's codependency, where you have it's like, no, I'm the child. Yeah, women do it too. There's some relationships where you have a mother-son relationship in a marriage or a partnership. That's not cool because one person is saying, give me all the respect and still give me all the cherishing. That's not cool. Okay? Again, except if that's how you've decided you will live your life and you're happy with it. So the thing to do is to speak up, ask for help from other adults who are influential in that person's life. If that person listens to their mother or their father a lot, you might want to bring influential people into the mix. Okay? There are family-based programs. There's also therapy. Sometimes you have to go individually first. If you're the one who's in a situation that feels painful like this, go to a therapist yourself and do your individual therapy so that you can find out, hey, what is it? Am I doing something wrong? Maybe my communication style is off. Or I need to learn to be more assertive. I need to learn to speak up more. You might need help creating a plan to leave the relationship because it's become physically abusive. Because it's become physically abusive. And that, if you want to know when you leave a relationship if it becomes physically abusive. Like we say, the person starts putting their hands on you. A person starts putting their hands on you. Again, it doesn't start with a punch the first time. I'm sure it doesn't. I've never had the experience, but from what I hear, it does not start with a punch in your mouth the first time. It starts with a brush. It starts with a playful slap as people start testing your boundaries to see. It might start with name calling, and that starts to ramp up. It might start actually with harsh tones, where the person doesn't want to listen to you, and suddenly what you're saying doesn't matter anymore. But see, you got to start talking about it the first time it happens and you feel uncomfortable with it. Okay? I get it. A lot of people don't want to deal with this stuff. You want to avoid it. Or you start telling yourself, oh, they're just going through a phase. It doesn't matter if a person is going through a phase. If they say something to you that doesn't feel good, you've got to talk about it and create a new way right away. Or else you start establishing a new pattern where it's okay for them to call you out of your name. And that starts to escalate. It escalates into broken bones. Do you know how many people end up in the hospital with broken bones, broken teeth, broken jaws, stab wounds? And as for poor Osinachi, death. And you can't go back. You can't go back. So I want to offer you some tips on how to leave a violent relationship. How to leave a violent relationship. Okay? I want to remind you that this is also the time where most women get hurt. Because what's happening when you're trying to leave? This person who had decided they have complete control of you, they're not going to let you go that easy. For many abusers, it touches a wound in them. That's an attachment wound where they feel like, oh my God, I'm losing my source of supply. It's narcissistic supply is what it is. I'll talk about narcissistic behavior in another session, but they're losing their attachment, and that can feel very painful for them, and it feels like they're losing control. So number one, what you want to do? I'm telling you now, if you have a partner who has touched you in any way that feels uncomfortable for you, find a therapist. Find a therapist that is trained to work with domestic violence, okay? And most therapists have some knowledge of how to work with domestic violence. You might not like the idea or the title, oh, I don't want to be called an abused woman. Forget about that. Forget about titles and words. If your mate has touched you in any way that did not feel like love to you, go talk to somebody about it. You want to start deciding. Tip number one, decide and plan where you will go if you have to leave home. So today, if I'm talking to you, decide, make a decision about where you'll go if you gotta escape. Okay? Even if you don't think you never, even if you think you never will have to leave, If there has been any physical violence in the relationship, they've grabbed you, they pushed you, they brushed you, they never slapped me though. Listen to me. If there's been any physical touch that felt uncomfortable to you, find a therapist to talk about it and start creating a plan if it gets to a point where you ever have to leave. That place should be a safe place. Huh? That place should be a safe place from which you can call for more help. It might be a friend's house or a friend's apartment. It might be a domestic shelter. There are many in many cities. So you want to look through your phone, Google domestic violence shelter. There are many shelters, many homes for women who are in crisis. Many of them will accept kids where you can go to get your bearings and to actually even get community support where they can help you get set up in a new apartment. Some places help you get set up with new furniture, new schools, new health insurance for the kids, so that you don't have to keep staying in a situation where there's physical violence. Number 2, determine who would be able to let you stay with them and lend you some money. Start thinking about it tonight. Who might be able to lend you some money and who might be able to let you stay with them for a little while? Number 3, have a bag that is packed and ready to go. Keep it in a secret place. It might be in your locker at work. It might be at your friend's house. But have a little bag, like when the hurricane is coming and you pack a little bag just in case everything gets blown up, your passport, your driver's license, your kid's birth certificate, get copies of your important things, your social security card. Put that in a little bag and have it somewhere that you know about, but your mate does not know about. Okay? Next step, open a savings account in your own name, even if it's with $50, $10, whatever it is that the bank or the credit union will allow you to start off with. Open an account in your name only. Open a savings account so that you can start to establish your independence. You might have already peeped that game and realized this person is not going to change. This person right here, I have talked to them about this name calling business. Stop calling me out of my name. You're supposed to be the masculine protector of our family. I am not feeling protected when you call me nasty, stupid, whatever. And you've had the conversations. You might have gone to therapy. You might have talked to your priest or your pastor. No change. Or the change happened for a month and then they stopped. They went back to their ways. And now you're walking on eggshells around them. You don't know what else to do. You're trying your best to cook the food the right way. They come in, but they always have something nasty to say about it. I'm talking to you tonight. Open a savings account, even if it's just $5, whatever it is, that institution will allow you to start off with. Okay? Keep the crisis line, that telephone number that I gave at the beginning, that I'll give you again at the end if you're in the US. Look, let me tell you, even if you're not in the US, it's an 800 number, Look, if your phone can get it, sometimes you need somebody to talk to. Sometimes you need somebody to give you some advice. Keep that crisis line number close. Better yet, Memorize it. I know we have cell phones these days and we forget everybody's number. Memorize it because you just might need it. Okay? Memorize it. That way, if they take your phone during a fight, or they take your phone and decide, I am not giving you your phone anymore because I sense you trying to leave me, you will have that number in your head. If you can get access to like a calling card, you know those prepaid phone cards? Buy one of those, buy a prepaid phone card, and keep it in that little emergency bag of yours that your friend might have, or that you might have had it in your locker at work. Okay? You don't know when you're going to need it to call your family to come rescue you. Before I go to the next one, you see that pride many of us have. We don't want people in. I don't want people to know my business. They're going to talk bad about me. Well, you can make that decision to keep silent, and you can die with your pride on. You can die with your pride. You're just a human being. You didn't ask for this. You're just a human being. You were making a good faith effort to be in a relationship. You're doing your best, the best you know how to do, and it's not working out. Okay? That means it is not working out. It is not in your best interest. It is time to leave. But I am reminding you that when you are in a physically violent relationship, the most lethal time for a woman is when she's trying to leave. That's why you have to plan. That's why you have to take your time and plan. Here's the next tip. Look for a safe computer at your job. If you have a job, look for a safe computer at your job. Or one day say, I'm taking the kids to the library, because there are free computers at most libraries. So that when you're searching for help, they won't be able to look at your browser history to say one night you forget to turn off your computer. One night you forget to turn off your computer and all your little search for domestic violence, this, domestic violence, that, they're going to see your browser history. And abusive people, again, it's about control. So trust me, they're going to be looking through your phone. They're going to be looking through your computer. So you have to think ahead. The next tip is to create a little code word or a signal with your family and your friends when you know, hey, I need the police. I need the police. So create a little code word. Something like 911, that's too common. Everybody knows 911. Maybe you come up with the word of somebody that only you and your sister know from back in the day when you all were in elementary school. It could be something as plain and bland as, I'm thirsty, I should drink some water. I'm thirsty, I should drink some water. You've already preset with your friends or with your relatives, this is where you'll call the police. He is going off. And I am terrified. Yeah, call him. I'm thirsty and I want some water. They'll know because you've already agreed with them that this is the signal. And then the last one, review your safety plan as often as possible. Review it. Just memorize it. Memorize it. Know what you're going to do. Know what you're going to do. And think about it so much that it becomes kind of like a default, like it's programmed in your brain. Because when we're under stress, in the middle of stress, you can't really think straight because your brain wants to go back to whatever stress response is used to. Like if you're used to just kind of freezing and not moving, that's what your brain is going to want to do. Okay? Or if your brain is like escape back into the room, it's just going to, no, you need to be planning for your escape. You need to be planning for your escape. So I want to give you that number again, Okay, and I'll type it in the chat so that if you're looking at the video after today, you still have access to it. Okay, and the number is 800-799-7233. 800-799-7233. Okay, finally, I'm going to wrap up. Love is a beautiful thing, but while it can feel like heaven on earth, sometimes it can feel like hell on earth. And when it starts feeling like hell on earth, that's a signal for you that I need extra support. I need extra support. Okay? I asked the question earlier, are men more likely to abuse in their feminine energy? Yes, because feminine energy, again, is where we're in our feelings. We're in our feelings. So a man who's constantly hitting his woman, that man is more often than not in his feelings. Because a man working from his masculine energy will be grounded in the understanding that he's here to protect and to cherish the feelings of his feminine mate. Clearly, if a person's grabbing me, they're not cherishing my feelings. Please understand this. If they're fussing at you because you're home 5 minutes later than they think you should have come home, they're not cherishing your feelings. That is not what love looks like. That's what control looks like. And that doesn't mean they're more in love with you because they're showing up at your work and they're afraid for you to take the train because they're afraid a man will talk to you. That's called stalking. And it's a precursor to really violent behavior. Okay? Some of us have a misconception that if they hit me, and there are actually women who say he's hitting me because he loves me. No, he's hitting you because he wants to control you and dominate you. And also because he's a beta male. Like Caribbean people say, he's a weak man. Why is he weak? He has not learned how to use his reasoning and his logic and his judgment to talk through challenging situations, to find solutions to problems, to assess consequences of his behavior. And so it is easier for him to connect to his feelings. And often those are the dark feelings of anger and anxiety. Those are the kinds of feelings that trigger those kinds of really stress responses in abusers. Okay? So, how do you rescue yourself? How do you rescue yourself? Number one, you start paying attention. Don't be so blinded by the chemistry you feel for this person you think who's the love of your life. Don't be so blinded by your body or by the good feelings you feel when they touch you that you don't see or hear or pay attention when they call you a nasty name or when they use words that put you down or when they try to control your behavior and tell you what you can do, what you cannot do. You cannot be blind to that. When we date in order to assess people, to decide, can I hitch my wagon to this person for the rest of my life? So when you're dating a person, it doesn't mean because I'm dating you, we must get married. No. The desire to have a ring on your finger for Caribbean women, Dominican women, people in the African diaspora, I say that because we place such a high value on marriage, which is a beautiful thing. I share the story with some people of how right after I finished my PhD, I went home to Dominica, and a villager whom I care about, and was happy to reconnect with. The first question dude asked me is, where the husband? You married? You married now? Where the husband now? Bruh, you know how hard I worked this past few years to get a PhD? Bruh, you know how much sacrifices I made. You asking me where the husband now? Because culturally, marriage is like almost the highest achievement a woman can attain in in our cultures, and that is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, but the thing is, people have a right to their own thoughts and feelings. You have to understand that too. It's okay that they think you need to be married, but why would you say yes to a person who calls you bad names, and that person is refusing to learn a different way to do it? Again, when we meet each other, we come with our own baggage. So yes, that's going to show up. Everybody's bad way is going to show up, but we have to be able to talk about it. And I tell you, I don't like this. It doesn't make me feel good. I want you to stop. I want you to call me this instead. If they cannot do it or they don't want to do it, okay, my talking with you is not working. We need somebody else, both of us respect, who is trained to help us figure it out. You do that work. If they still refuse to do it, what are you going to do? You're going to say yes to the ring anyway? Why? Why? Is your need to be married more important than your life? Again, these things, they escalate. It starts with name calling and it just goes up. It just goes up. Before you know it, your head is big like this with they call that la peine, pain and worry and anxiety. So you have to decide if a ring is worth that much stress. And again, dating people is to assess, to look at them, to turn them inside and outside. I mean, I know back in the day, I'm talking to the Caribbean, Dominican folks, you used to have to bring them home so everybody could put their eyes on them and see their ways. And if your dad and your mom said, I don't know, nah. I don't know. I saw a way in them that, oof, many of those unions ended right there. But I understand the culture has shifted. Yeah, we don't bring people home anymore so that the rest of the tribe can look at them anymore. We just bring them home to the tribe and say, this is my person. That's great. That's great. But be willing to do a more thorough job of assessing who you plan to hitch your wagon to. Because depending on who you hitch your wagon to, your life could go like this or like that. Okay? And you know it. So the last thing is about hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is a tool. Hypnotherapy is a tool that I have found to be very powerful in helping people get to the root of nasty behavior patterns, or patterns that don't work for them anymore, or patterns that don't give great results. Because very often the way we are now is based on, especially if it's a nasty way that's not working, it's based on something nasty that happened to us. Somehow we saw, we experienced, we lived through, we heard about, and we made a decision that it's just not working anymore. So what hypnotherapy allows you to do is to get quiet enough, focused enough, in a concentrated way to get to the source, to start seeing patterns. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And while you're in that state, because you are more suggestible is the word, meaning you're more likely to keep in yourself, in your brain, a new decision. If you are in a state of hypnosis, you can make a new decision. So your new decision could be, I speak up for myself clearly. When I'm feeling bad or not good, I ask for what I want. with clear words. Okay? Another one could be, I am comfortable dating until I find a mate that's the right fit for me. Okay? Because again, the ring is not worth your sanity. The ring is not worth your life. And you could be getting the ring, but you're getting the ring for other people. Meanwhile, these other people, they're happy in their relationships. Don't do it. Don't you do it. Okay? It is better to be happy alone than to be miserable in a marriage. It is so much better to be happy alone. And I really think for women, that's a challenge because we hear these stories from the time we're a little girl that, again, marriage is the ultimate. That you have arrived once you cross that threshold after you leave church. I am Mrs. Noe. I am a wife Noe. Mrs. So and so. That is beautiful, yes. But it must feel good for you. And I'm telling you now, if it's not feeling good for you, you can change it. You can actually heal the relationship you're in. But it takes communication. You have to be willing to ask your person for time to talk about what is not feeling good for you. And I'm telling you, if your person loves you, and is a masculine person, they're going to want to provide and protect you and cherish your feelings. So that means they're going to want you to feel better. So they will sit and they will listen to you. If you're with a person who doesn't want to listen to you, you might as well be, look, their object, their possession. How can you be with a person who doesn't want to listen to you? Who doesn't want to hear when you say, ouch? What is the point of that? How long will you deal with it? How long will you put up with it? We fix relationship problems by communicating, by talking. So if my person is stonewalling and they don't want to talk, there is a waste of time. And not just time, your life passes you by. Your life passes you by. And it passes so slowly because, when life is good, it kind of passes fast. When you see it's hurting, it's like tack, 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 tack. And you expose yourself to depression, to chronic stress that does a number on your body. Chronic stress, embarrassment. Can you imagine? For those of you, you have to get up and find a way to cover your eyes because you are choosing, and you are choosing to remain in a situation that is so painful. I also know that because of the dynamic in relationships where abusers are very good with their words, there's a cycle in domestic violence, okay, where right after they do something terrible to you, that's when they become Mr. Knight in shining armor. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, you knew what you were thinking. Please forgive me. Yes, I can forgive you. Huh? Here's a gift. Here's a this. Here's a that. They start with the love bombing, right? And then you start getting lulled into a sense of like, oh, it's okay now. He's healed. I prayed the prayer I prayed in church on Sunday. It worked. He's healed. Hallelujah. But what starts to happen is by next week, he starts coming home again and he's upset. He's a little upset. He's not big upset yet. He's a little upset. Work was this. Work was that. By next week, it's your fault that work was this. And you didn't cook properly. And why are the kids like this? And why are you not respecting me? And then you have another explosion. And the cycle, it comes down again. Boom, 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 boom. I'm telling you, if you find that I'm talking to you, I gave you an 800 number. I also gave you tips for how to leave that situation. But again, in the interest of saving your family and saving your relationship, which you've put in so much time and effort and money and yourself into, get help, get third party support, get a therapist, get a priest or a pastor, and not just a pastor who's going to tell you, oh, the Bible is against divorce. Listen, the Bible is against divorce, it's also against murder. Okay? So tell your pastor, I hear you, thank you, but then go look for some extra support, for somebody who can really give you something productive, as opposed to just, oh, the Bible is against divorce. The Bible is against divorce, but it also says, man, you must love your wife as your own body. And if a man, as much as men love their bodies, he would not be calling his body a bad name. He would not be calling himself a nasty name. So that means if he's doing that to you, what he's doing is not a loving thing. So he's out of order. If you're going to use the Bible, you got to use it all across the board. Okay? The thing is, your life is at risk if you don't address these patterns in relationships. Because things like that, they don't get better with time. They get worse with time. Okay? They escalate. Because again, once a person gets power, power corrupts. Anybody who has too much freedom and too much and no guardrails, they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Very few people come back in, reel themselves back in, or rein themselves back in. Okay? If you've been through a situation like this, if you've lived through a relationship like this, if you are in a domestic violence situation now, I'm offering a trauma healing workshop in June. Go to my website, you'll see the details there. I charge $250 an hour, okay? If you must know, if you're in the US, the lady in the river in Dominica says, bring your long hair and come, right? That's just, that's for the Dominican people. But yes, but I'm offering a whole day of healing work, a whole day of healing work for about that much. 8 hours of healing work for about that much. Okay? If you think you need that kind of support to feel your legs under you again, if you have a history of sexual trauma, sexual abuse, relationship abuse, family neglect and abuse, and you're ready to let all of that go, go to the website. It's drtriphi.com. Triphi is TRIPHI.com. I'm going to leave the number, that 800 number, in the chat tonight, because you are worthy of feeling good in this body that life, nature, God gave to you. As much as I'm worthy of feeling good in my body, same for you. Oprah is worthy of feeling good in her body, same for you. The Queen is worthy of feeling good in her body, same for you. So you have to know what you're feeling, and all you need, you gotta trust your emotions. You gotta trust your emotions, because this is where you'll find the information. Is this feeling good? Is this hurting me? What is it in this relationship that I don't want to keep happening? I don't want this to keep happening. Identify that. Ask your man for some time to talk about, hey, babe, when is it a good time for us to talk about some things that are just not feeling good for me in our relationship? Just like that. Put it in a text message. Tell him I'm willing to cook us a nice dinner and we can sit and talk. But some things have been on my heart and it's really hurting. And I want it to feel different. I want to feel better in my body. If he loves you and he's he thinks your relationship is important, he's going to say yes. If he doesn't say yes, ask him a second time. I would say ask him a third time. If the third time this person is saying they don't want to talk to you about anything, that's a person who's decided they're good and they don't really care much if you're good. At that point, you have to decide if you want to continue in that scenario. So you might want to communicate to your person, well, babe, I've tried several times for us to talk about this really painful thing, but by you saying no, I'm taking that to mean you don't care. Am I right about that? If they're still not talking, that person is not your person. Because how are you going to fix things if you have a person who is not wanting to talk with you about what is not feeling good for you? And okay, you're not the first person who will have made a mistake in judging a person. You know how many people do that? I mean, we're just human beings. You might have made a mistake. But definitely, if there's physical violence, honey, pack that emergency bag, put it at your friend's house, put it at the locker at work, hide it in the bush somewhere with all your important documents, clothes for you and the kids, and start planning. Please don't tell them your intentions. Please do not tell them, I'm going to leave you, because that little window is the most dangerous for a woman in a domestic violence situation. So don't do it. Okay? So I know this is a heavy topic. I want to talk about something else on Thursday. A couple people actually wanted me to break down the Will and Jada relationship. So that's probably what I'm talking about on Thursday. But when this stuff about Osinachi came on, I just had to talk about it because it feels like such a bright light has gone out. And I'm like, for what? For somebody's ego? It's just really, it makes me feel sad and very angry. So I'm grateful to you for showing up. That 1-800 number again is 800-799-7233 if you are in a relationship that feels physically, not feels now, where you've experienced physical violence. Okay? And if you're kind of on the cusp of that, where they're just calling you bad names and you're just feeling horrible, call them anyway. Okay? Call them anyway for some good advice on what to do next. All right. Marianne said Bam Bam Coco. Okay. Romelia, I'm glad you tuned in. Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Yes, Jess. You know, we can sacrifice a lot to say we are married. And it's beautiful. Marriage is beautiful, but really, when it's working, it's beautiful. But when it's not, if you're in the relationship and you're feeling alone, why don't you get married? What's the point of that? It feels like torture. Feels like torture. Blessed evening to you and happy Palm Sunday. And yes, communication is the key. So, according to Dr. Pat Allen, for you to be able to call something a relationship, you need these three things. Because if you only have two, you don't have a relationship. If you have one, you don't. You need all three. You need chemistry, meaning your body needs to like the other person's body. Okay? We're human beings, right? People will say, what I married for? What I married for if there's no chemistry, right? Two, you need compatibility, which is our lives fit. You know, we kind of go in the same place. We have similar sorts of values. Or even if we're very different people, we really are very accepting of each other's difference. And that might be a value within our relationship where you get to be who you are and I get to be who I am, and we love it like that. But we agree. We have a common agreement there. And the third piece for me is the most important, is communication. Communication. which is being able to talk with your person enough to where you can generate solutions, because problems must show up in the compatibility area, because one day I might want to go this way and you want to go that way. What do we need to be able to do to decide? You have to be able to communicate. As life moves on, babies come, hormones change, the chemistry changes. Mm? We have to be able to talk and communicate about it. So there's so many books, there's so many resources on, you just got to Google University, look for communication tools. Yeah, communication tools. I like to say use that SSS strategy. First, you make an appointment with your person by text. Send them a text, babe. Whew, something's on my heart. I really need to share some feelings with you. I really need to talk about something that's hurting me. When can we do that? I might even be able to cook a little food for us, or let's go on the beach. We can do it on the beach somewhere nice. And then first, you give them a little stroke. Tell them, I really like how you picking up the kids every day from school. I really like how you bringing home this for me every now and then. I really like that you're working so hard to support us. But that middle piece right there, that but. You stand. You take your stand where you tell them, but last night when we were arguing and you called me stupid, that hurt so bad. I really am not comfortable with you calling me names, because it makes me not want to talk to you. It makes me want to be by myself. It makes me feel very sad. What do you think about not calling me that word anymore? How about we just address each other with nice words, with positive words and encouragement? Okay, and then the last S is you offer some support. Is there anything I can do to help you remember how to do that? What can I do to jog your memory? So that I can keep feeling better, because when I feel better, I feel more loving towards you. And I want us to keep moving forward in this relationship. Okay? But you women, because you are mostly the victims, you've got to learn to speak up. And you've got to stop being silent about it, because that's how women get just obliterated, like poor Osinachi. Okay? We keep silent. We don't want to tell other people our business. They look down on us. We'll feel bad. We'll feel embarrassed. You have every right to make that decision, but understand that you might also be saying, okay, but if they keep punching me in the jaw, I might die. Oh, I'll get hurt. The kids are going to lose me. So make a decision. Okay? And if it is so bad, reach out for help. Call that domestic violence line, because okay, maybe you might not want to go see a therapist in your community, but this person on that line is impartial. They'll never meet you, but they'll be able to give you some advice. Okay? Yes, somebody says, I believe the same way you let your significant other know when they make you feel good, you should also let them know when you feel bad based on something they did or didn't do. Okay? I like to say people cannot make us feel anything, but we feel what we feel. But we can teach the other person how to love us better by letting them know, hey, if you come down that road like that, this is how I feel. So if this person again is a masculine energy person who wants to protect you and cherish you, take care of your feelings, they're going to listen. And it'll be a sign for you to look out for if they don't want to make a change. If they want to just keep and hold their position, oh, I can say what I want anyway. But I'm telling you, when you call me that name, it hurts me so bad. You're like, I'm going to be able to say it. I want to say it. Okay. That's information for you. That person might not be the best fit for you if they don't want to change that. Or you can decide to say, okay, I guess I'll just sit and take it. But I'm telling you, that's the biggest way to start getting sick, because you'll just be tolerating the stress from that name calling from now until eternity. You'll be the one with the diabetes and the high blood pressure and the stress. And you'll be the one not feeling good because you're feeling so discouraged that you don't even want to enjoy the pleasure, the chemistry with your spouse. Hmm? And that just breeds more nonsense. Open up your mouth and speak up. Open up your mouth and speak up. Okay? And when it's really broken down to the point where there's physical violence, we go into therapy. We need to learn what it is that you need to learn, let go of, to do different if I'm going to move forward with you. If you don't want to do that, I can't move forward with you. Now you start making your exit plan. Okay? That includes calling the hotline, getting your little emergency bag with your stuff, your important documents, your clothes, and hiding it. You cannot put it in the house where you have a controlling person and say, I'm getting ready to leave. No, don't do that. It might feel like you're lying, but okay, you're not willing to lie to save your life. You have to make that decision. Okay? So, um, I want to wish all of you the best in your relationships. I think relationships are great. They help us feel better when they're working well. We can save more money together. It's great to have a person to share your life with. Okay, being in happy relationships can it helps us heal faster. Okay, so many positives to having a relationship that feels good. The thing is, it's got to feel good and work well. Okay, so do your part. Thank you all for joining. It is almost 9 o'clock. Enjoy the rest of your Palm Sunday. Peace.